Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me. The vast expanse of the Orion Nebula stretched out like a canvas painted with stars, its beauty marred only by the oppressive presence of the Zarthian Empire. For centuries, the Zarthians had ruled this corner of the galaxy with an iron fist, subjugating countless species under their tyrannical control. Among them were humans, once proud and free, now reduced to mere tools in the Zarthian war machine, but in the darkest of nights, there was always a glimmer of light. For humanity, that light was embodied in a single fleet, small, but determined. They called themselves Freedom, and their leader was a man who had known both the heights of honor and the depths of despair, Captain Elias Kane. The Liberty, flagship of the Freedom Fleet, glided silently through the void, its hull battered but unyielding. Inside the command center, Captain Kane stood at the helm, his eyes fixed on the holographic display before him. The blue light of distant stars bathed his grizzled features, deepening the lines of experience etched into his face. "Commander Torres, status report," Kane ordered, his voice steady despite the tension hanging in the air. Commander Lena Torres, a woman of sharp intellect and even sharper instincts, glanced at the data scrolling across her console. "All systems green, Captain. The fleet is in formation and ready to jump on your command." Kane nodded, his mind racing with the weight of the decision before him. The raid on the Zarthian supply convoy had been a success, but it had also revealed a chilling truth: the Zarthians were developing a new weapon, one that could wipe out the last vestiges of resistance in the galaxy. Time was running out. "We can't afford to wait any longer," Kane said, turning to his crew. "We need to hit them hard and fast, before they can deploy that weapon." Torres met his gaze, her eyes reflecting the same determination that burned within him. "Agreed. But we'll need more than just our fleet to pull this off. We need allies, strong ones." Kane knew she was right. The Freedom Fleet, though skilled and courageous, was no match for the full might of the Zarthian Empire. But in this galaxy, there were others who had suffered under Zarthian rule, others who might be willing to join the fight if given the chance. "Set a course for the Kthari system," Kane ordered. "We have a message to deliver." The Kthari were a reptilian warrior race, known for their brutal efficiency in combat. Once proud and fierce, they had been brought to their knees by the Zarthians, forced to serve as enforcers for their new masters. But the spark of rebellion still smoldered in their hearts. As the Liberty emerged from hyperspace above the Kthari homeworld, Kane felt a pang of uncertainty. Would the Kthari join them in their fight, or would they see the humans as nothing more than another threat? The answer came soon enough. "Incoming transmission, Captain," Torres reported. "It's the Kthari High Warlord." Kane straightened, his hand hovering over the control panel. "Put him through." The image of the Kthari leader flickered to life on the display, his scaled face a mask of suspicion and barely contained fury. "Human," the warlord hissed, his voice a low growl. "What brings you to my world? Have you come to surrender, or to die?" Kane met the warlord's gaze, unflinching. "Neither. I've come to offer you a choice: fight with us against the Zarthians, or continue living as their slaves." The warlord's eyes narrowed, his tail lashing behind him. "You dare speak to me of rebellion? Your kind is weak, scattered. You think you can stand against the might of the Zarthian Empire?" "We don't have a choice," Kane replied, his voice calm but firm. "And neither do you. The Zarthians are building a weapon, one that will destroy all who oppose them. But together, we can stop them. We can free this galaxy from their tyranny." There was a long silence as the warlord considered Kane's words. Then, with a slow, deliberate motion, he raised his hand and signaled to someone off-screen. Moments later, the image shifted to show a fleet of Chthari warships, battle-scarred but still formidable, rising from the planet's surface. "We are not allies, human," the warlord said, his voice a dangerous rumble. "But we share a common enemy. For now, we will fight alongside you. But know this, when the Zarthians are defeated, there will be a reckoning between our people." Kane inclined his head, accepting the terms. "Understood. We fight together, for freedom." The alliance with the Chthari was a victory, but it was not without its costs. Mistrust ran deep, and tensions flared as the two fleets prepared for the coming battle. But there was no time to dwell on doubts. The clock was ticking, and the Zarthians were closing in. The next step in Kane's plan took the fleet to the Illyran system, home of the telepathic Illyran, a species known for their incredible mental abilities, but also for their isolationism. Convincing them to join the rebellion would be no easy task. As the Liberty approached the Illyran homeworld, Kane gathered his core team in the briefing room. Dr. Arlen Reed, the fleet's chief scientist and engineer, stood at the head of the table, a holographic map of the galaxy hovering above him. "The Illyran are deeply protective of their territory," Reed explained, his tone measured. "They've managed to avoid direct confrontation with the Zarthians by remaining neutral, but that won't last. The Zarthians see them as a threat, and it's only a matter of time before they make a move." Kane leaned forward, studying the map. "And we need them on our side before that happens. What do we know about their defenses?" "Formidable," Torres interjected. "Their telepathic abilities allow them to coordinate their forces with incredible precision. If we approach too aggressively, they'll see us as a threat and destroy us before we can even explain our intentions." Kane nodded, absorbing the information. "Then we'll need to be careful. Dr. Reed, I want you to work with our communications team to craft a message that will appeal to the Illyran, emphasize the threat the Zarthians pose to their way of life, and how our alliance can protect them." Reed inclined his head, already deep in thought. "Understood, Captain. I'll have something ready within the hour." As the team dispersed, Kane lingered, his mind weighed down by the enormity of the task before them. They were about to make contact with one of the most powerful and enigmatic species in the galaxy, and there was no guarantee it would go well, but there was no turning back. The Illyran response came swiftly, a mental pulse that resonated throughout the Liberty. Kane felt it in his mind, a strange sensation like a whisper at the edge of his consciousness. He knew that the Illyran were assessing him, judging his intentions. "We are here," came the voice, not through the ship's speakers, but directly in Kane's mind. It was soft, almost melodic, yet it carried an unmistakable authority. "State your purpose, human." Kane closed his eyes, focusing on the connection. "We come in peace. The Zarthians are building a weapon that will threaten us all. We seek your aid in stopping them before it's too late." There was a pause, and Kane felt a subtle shift in the mental presence, as if the Illyran were considering his words. "Why should we involve ourselves in your conflict? We have remained untouched by the Zarthians for centuries." "Because they will not stop with us," Kane replied, his thoughts clear and resolute. "Once they have destroyed us, they will come for you. You are a threat to their dominance, whether you choose to fight or not." Another pause, longer this time. Kane sensed a ripple of uncertainty, a crack in the Illyran's otherwise impenetrable composure. Then, the voice returned, more forceful now. "Very well, Captain Elias Kane. We will join your cause, but know this, we fight for our survival, not for your freedom." Kane felt the mental connection fade, leaving him with a mixture of relief and apprehension. The Illyrian were powerful allies, but their motives were their own. Still, it was a victory, and one that brought them one step closer to their ultimate goal. With the Cthari and Illyrian fleets at their side, the Freedom Fleet was now a force to be reckoned with. But as they prepared for the final assault on the Zarthian homeworld, the weight of their mission pressed heavily on Kane's shoulders. The stakes had never been higher. "All hands, prepare for battle," Kane's voice echoed through the Liberty, resonating with a resolve that belied the turmoil within. He had led his people to this moment, but the outcome was far from certain. The Zarthian homeworld, a planet of gleaming spires and oppressive fortresses, loomed before them. The Empire's defenses were formidable, a web of energy shields, automated turrets, and legions of warships ready to crush any who dared to challenge their might. But the Freedom Fleet was ready. They had come too far, sacrificed too much, to turn back now. "Commander Torres," Kane said, his voice low but steady. "It's time." Torres nodded, her eyes hard with determination. "All units, move into position. We're taking the fight to them." The battle began with a coordinated strike on the Zarthian outer defenses. Cthari warships, their hulls bristling with weapons, charged headlong into the fray, drawing the enemy's fire. Illyrian ships moved with eerie precision, their telepathic coordination allowing them to outmaneuver the Zarthians at every turn. Kane watched the battle unfold, his heart pounding in his chest. The Freedom Fleet was holding its own, but the Zarthians were relentless, their forces seemingly endless. Then, the tide began to turn. "Captain, we've got incoming!" Torres shouted, her fingers flying over the controls. "It's General Tharn, he's leading the charge himself." The image of General Tharn's warship filled the view screen, a massive, armored behemoth bristling with weapons. The Zarthian warlord had a reputation for ruthlessness, and his presence here could only mean one thing: he intended to end the rebellion once and for all. "Target that ship," Kane ordered, his voice rising above the din of battle. "Take him out, now." But Tharn was no fool. His ship was heavily shielded, and his tactics were brutal. He tore through the Allied fleet with ruthless efficiency, carving a path of destruction toward the Liberty. Kane's hands gripped the edge of his console as the Liberty shook under the impact of Tharn's assault. The ship's shields were holding, but only barely. They couldn't withstand this barrage for long. "Captain, he's locking onto us with a tractor beam," Torres warned, her voice tight with urgency. Kane's mind raced, searching for a way out. They were being pulled toward Tharn's ship, into the heart of the enemy fleet. If they couldn't break free, it would be over. "Reed, I need options," Kane shouted, turning to Dr. Reed, who was frantically working at his station. "We can overload the reactor, channel all our energy into the engines and make a run for it," Reed suggested, his voice strained. "But it could blow us apart in the process." Kane weighed the risks. It was a gamble, but they had no choice. "Do it." Reed's fingers flew over the controls, rerouting power to the engines. The Liberty's hull groaned under the strain as the ship surged forward, straining against the tractor beam. "Now!" Kane shouted. The Liberty broke free, veering wildly as it accelerated away from Tharn's ship. The Zarthian warlord's enraged roar echoed through the comms as his prey slipped from his grasp, but the victory was short-lived. "Captain, we're losing power," Torres reported, her voice edged with fear. "The overload damaged the reactor. If we don't fix it, we're dead in the water." Kane's mind raced, the weight of command pressing down on him. They had escaped Tharn, but they were far from safe. The Zarthian fleet was still out there, and they were vulnerable. Reed, get down to engineering, do whatever you can to stabilize the reactor, Kane ordered. Torres, take us into the debris field, maybe we can buy ourselves some time. The Liberty limped into the cover of a nearby asteroid field, the jagged rocks providing some measure of protection from the Zarthian fleet. But it was only a temporary reprieve. They needed to get back into the fight, or the rebellion would be crushed. Minutes ticked by, each one feeling like an eternity. The sounds of battle raged on the comms, the cries of their allies mingling with the crackling of static. Kane's heart pounded in his chest as he waited, hoping against hope that Reed would pull off a miracle. Then, a flicker of life. The Liberty's lights dimmed, then brightened. The engines rumbled to life, a low hum that sent a wave of relief washing over the crew. Reactors stabilized, but we're running on fumes. Reed's voice crackled over the comm, we need to finish this, and fast. Kane nodded, a steely resolve settling over him. They were battered, but they weren't beaten. All right, people. Let's end this. The Liberty surged out of the asteroid field, rejoining the fray with renewed determination. The Zarthian fleet, caught off guard by their sudden reappearance, faltered. Target Tharn's ship, take him out of the equation. Kane ordered, his voice filled with fierce determination. The Liberty's cannons roared to life, sending a barrage of energy blasts toward Tharn's warship. The Kthari and Illyrian fleets, seeing their opportunity, joined in the assault, hammering the Zarthian flagship with everything they had. Under the combined firepower of the rebel alliance, Tharn's ship began to buckle. The warlord's defiant voice echoed through the comms, vowing revenge even as his ship was torn apart. Finally, with a blinding flash, Tharn's warship exploded, sending a shockwave rippling through space. The Zarthian fleet, leaderless and disoriented, began to crumble. We did it, Torres whispered, a note of disbelief in her voice, but Kane knew it wasn't over yet. The Zarthians were still a formidable force, and they would not go down without a fight. But with Tharn defeated and their forces in disarray, the tide had turned. All units, focus fire on the remaining Zarthian ships, Kane commanded, his voice steady. We're not done until the last one falls. The battle raged on, but now it was the rebels who had the upper hand. The Zarthian ships, once so fearsome, were systematically taken down, their defenses overwhelmed by the sheer determination of the Allied fleet. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the last Zarthian ship was destroyed. The battle was over. A cheer erupted through the Liberty, a sound of pure, unbridled joy. Kane allowed himself a moment of relief, but he knew there was still work to be done. Send out the signal, Kane said, his voice calm but firm. Let the galaxy know, Zarthian rule is over. The news of the Zarthian Empire's defeat spread like wildfire across the galaxy. One by one, the enslaved species rose up, overthrowing their oppressors and reclaiming their freedom. The rebellion had become a full-fledged revolution, and the Zarthians, once feared and invincible, were now a fading shadow of their former selves. On board the Liberty, Kane stood on the bridge, watching as the Allied fleet began to disperse. The battle was won, but the scars of war would take time to heal. Captain, Torres said, approaching him. The Kthari and Illyrian have sent their thanks. They're returning to their homeworlds to help with the rebuilding. Kane nodded, a sense of satisfaction mingling with the weight of responsibility. Good. They fought bravely, they deserve peace. Torres hesitated, then added, and there's something else. Dr. Reed, he left a message for you. Kane's brow furrowed as he took the data pad from Torres. Reed had sacrificed himself to destroy the Zarthian war machine, ensuring their victory. Whatever message he had left behind, it was sure to be important. As Kane read the message, his expression grew somber. It was a warning, a cryptic but urgent warning of a greater threat lurking in the depths of the galaxy. Reed had discovered something during his time with the Zarthians, something that could dwarf even the Empire's tyranny. Kane's mind raced as he processed the information. The battle for freedom was far from over. There were still dangers out there, waiting in the darkness, but for now, at least, the galaxy could breathe free. Kane looked out at the stars, his resolve hardening. He had led his people through one battle, and he would be ready to lead them through whatever came next. Humanity had become a symbol of freedom, a beacon of hope in a galaxy that had known only oppression, and as long as there were those who would stand against tyranny, that beacon would never go out. The end was only the beginning.